The Beastie Boys said, "There's no sleep till Brooklyn." Some folks say you can sleep when you're dead, and Arnold Schwarzenegger says, "If you cannot sleep more, you must sleep faster," which are all wonderful sentiments that display how hardworking people treat sleep. At the expense of your own health, we are going to get the job done. But the truth is, a good night's sleep is one of the lowest hanging fruits that you can pick in order to improve your overall well-being, improve your cognition, improve your recovery, burn some body fat, make sure that you're functioning properly to really get the job done, to really optimize your performance as a person. Enjoy this wellness episode where we sit down and talk to super sleep coach Sam the Sandman Valdez. Howdy, wellness friends. This is AJ Webb, your SLV Health Wellness Coordinator, and I just got to sit down with Sam the Sandman Valdez. I don't think anybody calls him that, but that's a great name for a sleep tech. If you don't know Sam, he works on the sleep team, and he is a registered sleep polysomnographic technologist. I think that's what he told me. You can see it in the interview later. He's been a sleep tech or been involved in sleep for 14 years, probably been involved in sleep his entire life, but as far as delivering care regarding sleep for 14 years. He is a former combat medic in the United States National Guard, and that's where he got to start, and he figured out that he liked sleep, that he liked helping people in this way, and he has chosen to pursue sleep as a career. So in this interview, we talk a little bit about Sam's background, and then we get into some basics of what's going on when you're sleeping, as well as some strategies around how to improve the quality of your sleep and why you might want to do such a thing. So we talk about the different components of sleep, REM sleep versus non-REM sleep, when your hardware is recharging during non-REM sleep, and then your software is recharging during REM sleep when your eyes are moving or and you're having dreams. We get to talk about what is the ideal amount of sleep, that 7 to 9 hour windows that we should work to get, and if you can't get that much sleep, how do you improve the quality of your sleep? So we talk about some different strategies, from sleeping positions to noise machines to potentially using some different supplements, of course under a doctor's supervision and such a thing. And we also we talked about what to do if you're working shifts or you're traveling on a regular basis in order to work to continue to regulate and optimize that quality of sleep. So we tap into Sam's expertise as a sleep coach, a sleep educator, sleep hygienist, whatever you want to call him, so that we can have a few takeaways and implement them in our own life so we can continue to improve our own sleep. For myself, sleep was a really big part about recovering as a high-level athlete. I needed a lot of it. I had a broken and beat up body, and sleeping 8, 9, 10 hours, granted it was in college and high school when I could afford to do such a thing, was key for me in my recovery. And it has been a paradigm shift for me as I've gotten older to understand and stop focusing as much on my performance, how hard I'm going, how hard I'm working, how much I'm working, how hard I'm going in the gym, and to begin to focus on how do I increase the quality of my recovery. I spend 1 hour in the gym a day sometimes. It's the 23 hours that's going to really, the 23 other hours that's really going to help me recover and get ready for that next session to be a better performer, both on a cognitive level and then a physical level. So I know you will enjoy this interview with Sam the Sandman Valdez. We should start calling him that. And without further ado, Sam Valdez. Hello, wellness friends. This is my asking face. And I'm asking you to please like these videos, please subscribe to this YouTube channel, share them with your friends, and leave some comments. That will show that these videos are being watched and utilized and supported, and that way we can continue to support sitting down with experts in a variety of different wellness fields and extracting the knowledge and the wisdom from them so that we can implement it in our own wellness practices on a day-to-day basis so we can all live happy and healthy lives. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share. Thank you so much. Thanks in advance. Goodbye.
Disclaimer. Do not use this information as medical advice. Instead, see your own family doctor for care. The opinions expressed do not represent the opinions of SLV Health.
Sam Valdez, thanks for coming to my wellness cave to teach me about sleep. Sam, let's get this thing kicked off. I want you to tell me what's your name, what's your title here at SLV Health?
Okay. Sam Valdez. I'm a registered sleep polysomnographic technologist.
Yeah.
I've been in sleep for over 14 years, so it is a passion of mine.
Cool.
I came here in 2008 to help start up the sleep lab from scratch because prior to that they did not have an in-house sleep lab here at the hospital. So now we're up to 4-bed lab here within the organization, 2 beds here at the Alamosa facility and 2 at the Conejos County Hospital facility. So,
wow.
Yes.
Wow. So 14 years. Sam, how does one decide that sleep's your passion? How did you get into this particular area of health?
I had a respiratory background. Right out of high school, I joined the Army National Guard. I was a combat medic.
Thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you. I was working my way through college and got on as a trainee in the respiratory department. That's where my medical background started. I left the medical field, was married, and wanted to jump back into it because I missed it.
Mm-hmm.
Living in Texas, I got on as a trainee at a sleep lab, and thankfully, a couple of years after that, got registered.
Mm-hmm.
And what was pretty cool at the time, there was less than 10,000 people in the world that held that license. So I kind of thought I was in the ground floor of
your hot stuff right there.
Yes.
Yeah, you're a pace setter.
Yes.
What is that
awesome.
education course? I mean, you were the one. You're at the tip of the spear getting into it. But what does that education look like to become? Can you say your title one more time?
Registered sleep tech is basically the short term.
How does one become that?
Well, what we do now, thankfully, the process is easier now. In fact, we have I have 3 sleep techs who work for me now, and they are in the process of getting ready to take their registry exam.
Wow.
Right now, but basically, right now you can go to school for it, in which we've sent our techs to school in Texas. They basically do a 2-week crash course, and then the rest is hands-on, working with our other techs and building up hours. And then taking online classes too, along with that. And then once they meet that criteria as far as hours and completion of online courses, then they can be eligible to test for what's called a certified now, which they didn't have before, but it's a newer one. And then they can go on to their registry exam.
Outstanding. Outstanding. So what are, who are the people that you help here at San Luis Valley Health? Who are your clients or your patients? Who do you see?
The biggest thing that we deal with here at the sleep lab are people with sleep apnea.
Okay.
People who have trouble sleeping, have high blood pressure, they snore a lot. Lots of people that have sleep apnea don't know that they do.
Wow.
But what's nice is that a lot of the doctors can recognize the signs and put things together, such as poor sleep, heart conditions, high blood pressure, maybe overweight, although not everybody that has sleep apnea is overweight, but most do. And so any type of sleep problems is the biggest thing. So if a person goes to their doctor or goes for a checkup and all of a sudden, they tell them, well, I'm not sleeping very good, or I sleep 6 hours, 7 hours, and I still am tired, or I get tired during the daytime a lot. My spouse says that I stop breathing in my sleep.
Oh, wow.
Those are definite signs
those are like that's what's telling you it's time to go and talk to someone.
Exactly,
like that, right?
Exactly. And some people may not put all of the things together, but you put enough of the signs together as far as, like, for example, waking up tired, or I wake up fine, but I get tired during the afternoon and I can't keep my eyes open. I'm drinking caffeine all the time and stuff like that.
So that fatigue, the report of a spouse or someone that's, watching you or is around you while you're sleeping, that
Right.
you're stopping breathing,
Right.
or snoring.
Correct.
Like, is snoring normal?
It is not,
Okay.
and it is considered an airway obstruction. Although most people who do snore, or let me put it this way: people that have sleep apnea, more often the time they snore, but a person can snore and not have sleep apnea.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So, what's ideal sleep?
Ideal sleep is, as far as the amount goes, for adults, 7 to 9 hours.
Okay, 7 to 9 hours.
Is the basis right there. And obviously people can function off of less, but they don't function ideally.
Right.
And I mean to say that is that we use other means to get by. Caffeine, coffee, energy drinks, things like that. So they kind of push the boundaries. But ideally, for adults, 7 to 8. And younger obviously need more. Teenagers, 9 to 10 hours.
20.
Yeah, there you go, 20 hours. But no, and obviously as young kids, babies, we've had, all of us who've had kids know that they like to sleep more, and they do, and that's good for them. And as we begin to age, and for example, elderly people, they're going to get less sleep, and that's just a natural part of life, is what it is. The quality is going to be poor, but it's just something that's natural. So
now, it's something that we do it all the time. So I don't know how often we ask ourselves, why do we have to sleep? What is our body doing when we're sleeping, Sam?
Oh, that's a great question, because basically sleep is broken down into two major categories: REM sleep and non-REM sleep.
What does REM stand for?
Rapid eye movement.
Okay.
And that's basically when we're dreaming. So whenever you hear REM sleep, that's when we're dreaming.
Okay.
And literally dreaming. And basically what's happening in those two parts of sleep, in non-REM sleep is when we're not dreaming, our body is getting physically repaired.
Okay.
During that time, it's getting the proper rest for the muscles, the tissues, things like that.
Right.
Then, in REM sleep, that's when our brain is taking over as far as help to regulate processes in our bodies, such as thyroid problems, diabetes problems, things like that.
Okay.
Our heart rate changes during the different stages of sleep, too, so the heart helps to get repaired and stuff, too. Our brain takes time off and sort of rests, even though it's active.
Okay.
Because our brain never literally shuts off, but it helps to regulate our bodies. For example, when we're dreaming, our bodies go paralyzed, and that's to help save our bodies from getting injured, anything like that too. So if a person's not getting the proper sleep, especially or everything, you need the REM sleep and the non-REM sleep. All of it is vital because it all works together.
Okay.
Because if a person starts getting sleep deprived, things are going to suffer. For example, brain function.
Gotcha.
All of a sudden, you're not getting REM sleep. Well, guess what? It's going to suffer. Your thinking skills, your reaction skills, things are going to slow down. You're not going to be thinking as clear. Going to be more emotional.
Okay.
Which is not good.
Well,
you can't function
It can be
at your top.
troublesome, especially interacting in society.
Well, it can. It really can. Yes.
So tell me, Sam. So the way I'm understanding, so we have non-REM and REM. REM, rapid eye movement.
Correct.
And in that non-REM, our bodies are repairing.
Correct.
All right.
Correct.
So the hardware, that's getting repaired, muscles,
Correct.
tissues, right? And then that REM sleep, we need that though as well, because that's when your mind is starting to repair and do the things that it needs to do to keep your noggin fresh.
Exactly. For example, our cerebral spinal fluid, it's getting flushed during that time, kind of getting cleaned out, cleaning out the pipes, so to speak, during that time, because the brain is more active during the REM sleep. Exactly.
So proper sleep.
Yes.
So if we're looking at that 7 to 8 hour window, let's just say we're getting 8 hours of sleep. How much of it is ideal to be REM sleep, and how much of it is non-REM sleep?
For average adults, about 25% is REM sleep.
Okay.
And the rest is obviously the non-REM sleep. So, and basically the way it works is, on average, for the average adult, the cycle in and out of it about every 90 minutes.
Oh, okay.
So it can last anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour. And typically, for example, people that wake up to an alarm, which most Americans do, a lot of times you wake up in the middle of a dream, and we all know it's like, oh my gosh, it's kind of like shocking.
Yeah.
It's a shock to the system. Well, think about it. When we're in REM sleep, our body's paralyzed, and it's all of us. You got a bunch of stuff going on in your brain, right? And so our body's paralyzed. It's basically waking up to an alarm out of a paralyzed state. So that's why it's so shocking and stuff too. So
I see. So we talked about how much, and so every 90 minutes we're cycling into some REM sleep, right?
Correct,
so
correct.
We're getting this nice mix of the hardware and the software, getting a chance to repair itself.
Right.
What are the things that are telling us that we're not getting enough REM sleep?
Well, your thinking skills, and that it can be harder. And for example, too, I'll just throw this in there: obstructive sleep apnea.
Okay.
If a person has sleep apnea, where basically it means they stop breathing, it's always going to be worse during that REM period.
Okay.
And that's because our bodies are paralyzed.
Okay.
So if a person does stop breathing, it's always going to be worse during
as soon as they're getting into that REM area, they're bam.
Yeah, exactly. Their oxygen level's going to drop further. Their pauses in breathing is going to be longer.
Gotcha.
And it's not good.
Okay.
So, so if a person's not getting good quality REM sleep, it's going to affect mentally. Is the big one. Okay. It's going to affect your thinking skills over time, and that can be harder to detect.
Yeah.
Obviously, but it's huge. It's very vital, though. Obviously.
Yeah. So, folks that come to see you, they've talked to their doc quite a bit, and maybe they have this variety of different symptoms, but at the same time, there's a lot of folks that may not have sleep apnea that are just regular Joes and have the perfect, they have the capacity to sleep well, but don't for a variety of reasons, whether they're choosing not to, they're zonked in on some TV. We talked a little bit about some of those consequences cognitively about not getting enough sleep. But it sounds like, Sam, this is something that we really need to make a priority.
It really is. I'm a sleep educator also.
Okay.
And so that's one thing. I'm a big advocate for healthy sleep habits. And it's something that we call sleep hygiene.
Sleep hygiene, okay.
Correct, yeah. And it's like, what is that? Is that taking a bath or a shower before I go to bed? It's like, well, not necessarily. But basically, to simplify it, is basically developing good habits that lead to good sleep.
Right. Good sleep meaning that you're having long enough of that non-REM sleep to get yourself into REM, and you're having the right mix.
Right, and not things that, for example, not having difficulty falling asleep or staying asleep, habits not to do if you do wake up, things like that, or good things, good sleep hygiene or good habits to have to keep you sleeping well, and wake up refreshed.
So as part of that sleep education, you give folks the skills to learn how to cultivate this higher quality sleep. Right?
Correct.
Because again, in a lot of the wellness approaches I talk to, like if you're not able to make that time, you can the best strategy from there is to work to increase the quality of it, right?
Correct.
You know what? You got 15 minutes to exercise, right?
Yeah.
Instead of maybe it being one thing, let's make it a little bit more intense or difficult, or whatever it is, increase the range of motion, right? Same thing, same thing nutrition-wise, right? If you can't change it, but you just do your best to increase the quality of it. Correct. So let's talk a little bit about that, some of the things, because when you say, folks aren't able to fall asleep, I myself, I got a million-mile-a-minute mind sometimes, and especially I can remember during my playing days, playing sport and playing at a high level, there was a nice part where I had a very fatigued body from, doing these things, but at the same time, I was also, under pressure for myself in games and different things like that. So my mind would race, at school, and now I'm a dad. There's all kinds of these life things that happen to us, right?
Right.
So what are some of the things that you recommend to folks that have trouble falling asleep?
Falling asleep. Some of the biggest things, and many of us have been guilty of it over the years too. Electronics is is probably one of the biggest things. The TV in the bedroom being the biggest culprit.
Okay.
Probably about 80% of the people I talk to have a TV in their bedroom.
Yeah.
That's a big no-no.
Okay.
Because basically, the way it was put to me years ago, the bed is for two things.
Okay.
Sex and sleep.
There you go.
And that's it.
There you go.
Simply put.
Right.
Not for watching TV, not for playing on the iPad or on the laptop.
What
and
about
stuff
what
like
about
that.
answering work emails?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Yes. Zero electronics in the bedroom is the best thing.
Well, and it sounds like too, working to make the bedroom the sacred place.
It
right?
is. That's
this
exactly
is what this is for. I don't like stuff on my dining room table.
Right.
I love my children. I support their wanting to draw and Play-Doh and stuff like that,
Right.
but I would prefer that they would do those in other areas, and I set those areas up because I want the dinner table to be this sanctuary, this 30 minutes where we're going to sit down and talk, and I don't, and of course you can clear it off before, but keeping it for that purpose, which is difficult in a lot of ways, but sounds like making that sleepy time, that's lovey time, right? And that's what it's for.
That's exactly right. And the one thing studies have shown too is that if you're doing other things there, other activities there, the brain's eventually over time is going to not find a difference there.
Right.
So it's going to say, well, you always read here, you always do your homework here, you always do your tax, or you do electronic stuff here.
Yeah.
Anyway, when it's time to go to bed, the brain is not going to find a difference there. So it's going to take longer, even though your eyes are closed, lights are out.
You don't have the cues, right?
Exactly.
And let's talk about some of those cues, because one of the things that we'll talk about too is for what are some of the strategies for folks that are on the shift work,
Right.
But so working to create some cues. So when I walk into a gym, I smelled like the rubber of the floor, the steel, a little bit of rust and sweat, and some gross thing. But I know what time it is.
Exactly.
Right? It's ding, and
Exactly.
my body physiologically kind of alters. And we want to do the same thing with that bedroom.
Yes.
Let's talk about some of those strategies. I've heard that if you work to shut those screens off, little ones, big ones, 1 hour prior to sleep.
Correct.
This is a good practice. This is not just hearsay.
No, it is not. Yeah, and in fact, 1 to 2 hours is what they say. But let's face it, people are on their cell phones. People are on their laptops, or the kids are playing video games. Right, exactly. So, at the minimum, an hour before bedtime, shut off electronics. That even means put down the cell phone. For people who love their TV, and I've been guilty of it too. I love watching sports, and you watch an intense game, it gets you excited. You may have a harder time going to sleep.
Right, you're a little riled up.
Right, exactly. But it is said to even turn the TV off at least an hour before you go to bed.
Okay.
And basically, it gives the brain time to decompress.
Okay.
Because let's face it, the brain is full of gathering information all day long, and it needs time to decompress. Otherwise, a person may lay down to bed after just barely turning the TV off, or just barely getting off the cell phone, playing a game or a laptop, and guess what? It's going to take a while for that brain to shut down and relax.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about light, Sam.
Yes.
So, obviously you're watching TV or your phone, you got this thing, kicking on, and bless you, Steve Jobs and Apple, for turning my screen slightly brown for to eliminate some of the blue light. But what is the lights from our chargers, that red dot on the cable box? What are those things? What is light doing to us when we're trying to sleep? It
is still, because the brain is so smart, it can still pick up things.
Right.
And so those lights, even when we're closing our eyes, like, oh, that light's always on, or the light from your digital clock, I need it so when I lean over, I can see what time it is. Things like that aren't good because, again, the brain is picking those up, and it's smart enough to know that they're on.
Right.
So those are causing distractions.
Gotcha.
And so the best way, I tell people, zero light in the room. Cool and dark is the best prescription.
Little Post-it note over that red light.
There you go.
Bit of electrical tape.
There you go.
But just working to reduce.
Exactly.
If you want to work in a quiet place so you can concentrate, you want to sleep in a dark place so your body's not going to be distracted.
Exactly. Correct.
There we go. So we got the screens off, right? We're trying to ditch those 1 hour before bed so we can help us fall asleep. We're trying to reduce some of the light. What about I got a 1.5-year-old.
Right.
I got a 4-year-old,
Right.
and that 4-year-old's got the boniest elbows you ever saw, and I know because she crawls into bed and gives
Bam.
me the business.
Right.
You know? What I mean,
Right.
and it's probably going to be that way for until that boogeyman's not there. But
right.
is it a good strategy to reduce these types of distractions, pets, kids?
It really is. I mean, I have a little dog too, and I love him to death.
Mm-hmm.
And like on the weekends, it's like, cool, you can sleep with me, that's fine. But in general, it's not a good practice to let your animals sleep with you. And it's just because of that, because they move around and stuff too, will wake you up and disturb your sleep. They don't mean to, unless they need the bathroom. Of course, they'll wake you up and let you know. But yes, it's best practice not to let your kids, because I work with some people that their kids still like to crawl in bed with them every single night at a certain time, and stuff. And I've been there, I've had that before. Guilty. So the some things we don't get around of, or we can pick and choose our battles. If you're going to let your kids sleep with you, okay, but eliminate some of those other things.
Gotcha.
The lights, the electronics and stuff too. A good practice too. I've actually read this is like, if you're not on call, or like a doctor or nurse or whatever, charge your cell phone in another room.
Okay.
If you're not going to be, you're not going to be expecting any phone calls, don't even charge it there, because again, with the whole light, going back to the lights thing, the lights in the other room, you're not going to see anything. So.
Well, and then again, this is just a string of things where it's not like you're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater if you've got some lights going on there. But these can be some strategies to play around with to see, to work to see if you're getting better rest.
Correct, exactly. Another big one too is, especially now here in Colorado and Alamosa being as cold as it is every winter, is people turn up the heat, obviously, but a good practice is the cooler the temperature, the better.
Okay.
Obviously, we don't want to be freezing. That's
But no, I hear you.
But a comfortable temperature, and it's better to sleep with more blankets than having the heat cranked up, because we sleep better with cooler temperatures as opposed to hotter temperatures.
Right. Which now, not that's attainable. Very attainable, right? But I've heard of these things. I heard of this thing called a chili pad. Right? You heard of this thing? All right. So I understand it's something that, like, in the summertime, you can take this thing, and if the ventilation just isn't cutting it for you, you can take this thing and it'll work to help cool you off. Depending if you're a hot sleeper and a cool sleeper, because we differ, our spouses are. It's a rule that they're the exact opposite of you, I think.
Exactly.
But anyway, so we're gonna keep a nice cool dark place. Cool dark place.
Correct.
Very nice. Very nice. So let's talk about another strategy, right? If it wasn't Friday, I wouldn't be breaking my own rule, because it's really my preference not to consume caffeine after 12. And so for me, my sleep regimen is I'm looking to wind down around 8 o'clock, start winding the kids down, try and be in bed by 9, and asleep sometime before 10. In order for me to do that, I don't know if I have to really say no coffee after 12 in order for me to do that and get my sleep, because I usually wake up in between 4:30 and 5 a.m. So I wake up pretty early. And that's just one of the things that I've used for me. How is caffeine messing with our sleep?
It definitely is. 6 to 8 hours is the standard.
Minimum. That's how much time you want between your last significant dose of caffeine.
Correct. So for average adults who, let's say, go to bed maybe around 10, 10:30, 2 o'clock, 2:30, absolutely no more caffeine after that.
Gotcha.
And some people I've met all kinds of people over the years, obviously doing thousands of sleep studies over the years. I've met people who say they can drink a pot of coffee before they go to bed, and they sleep just fine.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing with that.
That's what they report.
Exactly.
They were successful at closing their eyes and then waking up sometime, but what was going on with their REM sleep?
So, basically what's happening is that not just even the REM, but even the non-REM sleep, basically the quality is affected. So you can get sleep, but again, going back to the quality. If you still have caffeine in your system because you had 2 cups of coffee at 8 o'clock that night.
44-ounce monster.
Exactly. Guess what's going to happen? You can still sleep. It's not going to keep you from sleeping necessarily, although it might. but even if you obtain sleep, it's going to limit the quality of the sleep.
Gotcha.
So it's not going to be, you're not going to be as restful. It's just a fact of life.
Gotcha. So let's start stacking some of these habits, and we'll keep going through the checklist. So we got a nice, cool, dark place where the kids aren't gonna poke you in the neck with their elbow, right? You got the lights turned out, your distractions. You're turning that screen time off at 8 o'clock. I'd want to say, like, to continue to think, to start shutting the machine down. I know breathing exercises, that's something that you can do. I use meditation, not meditate. I'll take 5 to 10 minutes to do a box breathe where I'm breathing in, holding it, and just kind of pay attention to that. I do that to chill myself out so I can write my to-do list for the day and not worry about, oh man, these wellness rewards, and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Good tactic before bed?
Yes. Good breathing exercises. Herbal sleepy time tea.
Sleepy time tea, okay.
Yeah, people say
it's
that.
like a nice warm hot drink.
It is. Warm milk. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard people say warm milk works good too.
Well, I'd imagine anything, it wouldn't matter if it's part of your ritual, right? And I think that's what, this ends up being is, you set up the environment, but you also want to work to develop a ritual. Just like I used to stretch before I play ball and stuff like that.
Exactly.
And you have the, put the gear,
That's right.
Working to, shut down the engines, get ready for some recovery.
That's right. Have a good, healthy routine. Some people take a warm bath or a warm shower to relax their muscles from the day. Then you brush your teeth and do all that stuff before you get to bed, and maybe read something relaxing. Obviously, you don't want to be reading a James Bond book before you go to bed. Get kind of excited or something, but things that would help to relax you, and deep relaxation techniques like breathing, things like that are really good.
Any recommendations? So let's imagine that I'm one of the folks that I get off work, it's 5:30, I go and maybe I catch a snack and do some chores, and then I'm trying to get to the gym later in the evening. Like, what's the recommended amount of time? And we'll just call a moderate, intense kind of a thing, because I know it depends on what you're doing. But what about exercise? How close to bed?
They say you want to give as much time as you can. And so let's face it, all of us work for a living and stuff, and so let's say for those of us, for example, that work during the day, typically we'll get off for anywhere from 4 to 6, somewhere around there. You would want to do it as soon as possible, because you'd want at least 4 hours, 4 to 6 hours of time before you actually go to bed, too. And the benefit of the exercise, too, obviously, it's going to help you to sleep better. Lowers your heart rate and stuff, too. Exactly. So there's the benefit there. But exactly. So you definitely don't want to get on the exercise bike or the treadmill at 9 o'clock and then go to bed at 10:30. That's not as good.
It's not ideal.
It's not ideal.
Correct. But at the same time, I think it's just important to understand the body, the machine needs time to cool its engines and get ready for this rest. Correct. So we went over quite a few tactics there. So the darkness, all of that, and then into possibly some tea, some nice reading or something like that. What if this isn't working, Sam? I know that there are sleep supplements out there with a vast array from melatonin and chamomile essential oils and things like that. Where does something like the melatonins, the ZQL, when do you encourage someone to think about trying some of those things? After
educating them on some of the sleep hygiene habits, and if they are going through those habits and starting to make those a part of their routine, and they're still having. So that's what I would give them tips.
So this is after you clean up your hygiene.
Exactly.
You're getting these basics down, then start looking into melatonin, ZQL, or
Correct. Exactly. Yeah, like for example, to people that come to the sleep lab and we find out they have sleep apnea, they get on a CPAP to help that.
What's a CPAP?
CPAP is continuous positive airway pressure, or to put it simply, it's a mask blowing air up your nose to keep your airway open. All right. So you don't stop breathing, basically.
Good to know.
It helps to keep you breathing at night. So
my uncle's got forced air in his house. I think that's what I'm just kidding.
Right. Right. Blowing, sleep over a vent.
Yeah, dry my sinuses out.
Right. But, so people like, for example, who are starting to get used to wearing a CPAP, it's like, well, okay, that's an adjustment period. Then that's perfectly fine. Right. So if they may need a mild sleep aid, such as maybe melatonin, a 3 milligram or 5 milligram melatonin, and it helps to initiate that sleep.
Because we're making melatonin anyway, isn't that
correct?
The way I understood it, and please educate me, is that melatonin is something that is produced as a result of darkness?
Correct, yes.
And then by adding a little bit in, we're able to just supplement what we should be doing.
Exactly. And so it's not something that's going to help sustain you for 8 hours to help you sleep. It's helped to initiate that sleep. Yeah.
I see.
Correct.
I see. Great. Great. So, what about situations where you're about to travel? I don't know if you're flipping time zones, right?
Yes.
But these things, I mean, as much as we'd love for everyone to have the luxury of being able, 9 p.m. is when it's going to happen.
Right.
We have shift work. Correct. We have emergencies. We have travel. We have these different things. What do you suggest for folks that encounter those disruptions in a routine on a regular basis?
Well, and I can speak of this from doing sleep studies for years.
A lot of people take snoozes, right? So you haven't maybe always you've been a day walker,
right? Yes, right? Correct. So I've worked my share of night shifts over being in sleep for 14 years.
On this.
This is from first-hand experience. If you read the books it will tell you for people who work shift work is to keep the same routine on your off days.
Okay.
But I'm a realist. Yeah. We are all realists. Let's just be real. We have families, we have kids, we have spouses, we have things that we need to get done on our days off. So if you work 3 nights a week, graveyard, well, guess what? You got stuff to do during the day. You're not going to keep necessarily that same routine throughout all your days off.
Yeah, you need to go on some picnics.
Exactly. You got to go pay bills. You got to go to the grocery store, daytime activities. So, the best thing to do in those cases is to keep the sleep hygiene things going good. Okay. So when you do get to sleep, make sure the quality is going to be the best that you can.
Right.
Because you're not going to always be able to keep that schedule. It may, if you got time off and you've got no major tasks and stuff to do, or for a person who's single who does that, can keep that same routine, then hey, that's great.
Right.
That's ideal. But to put it mildly, or to put it boldly, our bodies were not made to function at night.
Right.
Our bodies were God designed our bodies to sleep at night and to function during the day.
Yep.
And so whenever we're doing any type of shift work, we're going against the grain.
Yeah, we got some hidden costs there.
Exactly.
Right, but we can work to it. It's still never going to be perfect.
Correct.
Not going to be ideal, but
correct.
Again, we keep tinkering with these different things to find the habits that work well for us.
Exactly.
Now, Sam, tell me about naps. Right. Okay. So let's imagine that I don't know. I think only college students take naps and like small children, but like where do naps fit in? Are these a good idea? Try and go and catch a half-hour snooze at lunch, or tell me, Sam.
Well, it's something I joked with my supervisor here a few years ago that when I was reading that Google, the company has sleep pods.
Sleep pods, those things. Wow.
That's exactly right.
The mist.
That's exactly right. So, and the European studies have shown that many employers in Europe have them available for their employees. And they find the productivity is very high.
Really?
With people that are allowed to go and take a nap, take a break from their workstation, and go, and a 15-20 minute nap is what's recommended. Okay. You don't want to really take anything longer than that, because then it's going to basically, it slows you down too much.
Power
is
naps
what it does.
Only.
Exactly. Okay. 15-20 minute naps.
Now, is there any caveats or hidden costs to that? I mean, I'm sure that a lot of folks have done this. I mean, you get home, you're exhausted, you have supper, and you sit down, and then it's Monday night.
All of a sudden you doze off, correct?
And then you wake up 15 minutes later,
right?
And sometimes I'm like ready to go to bed, and then I can turn it in right there if my chores allow.
Right.
By other times it's zing, and I'm ready to rumble there.
Right, exactly.
But that's kind of the obviously I don't want to take a nap too close to bedtime.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
But sneaking in a snooze on your lunch break,
not the worst idea.
Okay.
It is not. If you can take a 15-minute nap, on your lunch break, it's not the worst thing in the world. It really isn't. But anything longer than that, because some people like to take Sunday afternoon naps or weekend naps like that. If you're going to, 15 to 20 minutes is the best practice.
Gotcha.
So, because basically they say with catch-up sleep, you really don't ever really catch up, So like, let's say you went sleep deprived because you had to, whether it's work or kids or you were sick or whatever. It's hard for the body to play catch-up. So some people say, well, instead, tomorrow I'm going to sleep 10 hours. Right. Well, guess what? You're going to feel a little groggy after you sleep in, trying to make up for that.
We've really focused on undersleep, fatigue, tiredness, right? Oversleeping. Right. This is a thing?
Yes, it is. Okay. Yes, it is. And so what
was that? Hyposomnia.
Yes, somnambulism.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Big word.
Tell me more about that. So what is, if you can be afforded the luxury of an 11, 12-hour snooze on the weekends,
right?
Could you be disrupting your weekly pattern?
Yes. And again, it goes back to you want to keep a healthy practice. For example, we go back to the 7 to 9 hours of sleep as a norm. It is ideal to keep that even during your weekends. So, for example, a healthy, good sleep habit, say to wake up around the same time you wake on a Saturday or Sunday, wake up at the same time you do as during your work week. Go to bed at the same time. Some people like to stay up late on the weekends, watch movies or play games or whatever. Okay, that's, we're human. We like to have fun and stuff too, but don't make it 3:00 in the morning. As opposed to closer to maybe I'll push it till 11 or 12.
That last Game of Thrones episode.
Exactly. So just trying to keep it within some kind of sense.
Perfect. Now let's talk about some other things. When my mother, bless her, comes to visit.
Yes.
She likes to get in and get settled, and her little dog's there, and she turns on the TV, and then she's gonna have her a couple of wine coolers.
Right.
And because it settles her down after a long trip.
Right.
What are some of the things that we need to take into consideration around alcohol and how it affects our sleep?
Alcohol, while it is a depressant that we know,
and it's going to depress our nervous system,
exactly, and suppress it, right? And so, many people think, and have practiced that I've met over the years. People, have practiced this over the years. They say, "Well, I always have a beer before I go to bed."
Yeah, this blood's free.
Or a glass of wine. Some ladies say, "Well, I like a glass of wine before I go to bed."
Right.
Well, here's where it works against you.
Okay.
Because although it'll help you to get to sleep, alcohol is just plain not good for the quality of sleep.
Okay.
Again, it's going
so it's got some costs.
For example, exactly. For example, here's a good example. Anybody who's ever drank too much and basically had a hangover.
What's that?
Right. And you know that you can sleep 8 hours. Let's say you had that luxury after a hangover, sleeping 8 hours, and you wake up and you feel totally exhausted and beat up still.
Yep.
And that's because your sleep quality wasn't worth a hoot.
Okay.
And so basically you're completely robbed of any quality of sleep during that time.
So we're not getting that extra REM in there too?
Exactly. Okay. It's robbing you of the quality of REM sleep.
I see.
You may stay in stage 3 sleep, which is basically a deep non-REM sleep, or stage 2, but you're not getting that quality that you need.
That's what it's been my understanding also with some of the more intense sleep aids, is that you're going to not move and it's going to be dark and stuff like that, but your software's not going to get the same.
It can, yes, and that's why it is best not to depend on sleep aids.
Right.
Obviously, I've been I've had some experience myself with them, working shift work and stuff too,
Right.
and transitioning to daytime work and stuff. So if you have to, keep it limited, and talk with your doctor about that,
Gotcha.
and they can help you with that. There's other type of sleep aids out there too. Unisom, for example, which is basically an antihistamine, like Benadryl, similar to that, that a person can sleep. Used to sleep, and I even say you can even break it in half. Real simple and stuff like that. Not as severe side effects, but there are. And for example, to people who are on pain medications, it affects their sleep, their quality of sleep. Some people who are on different types of benzos, medications, it can affect the quality of sleep, the quality of REM sleep. Some medications are REM suppressants. Some are
Probably got another hour of conversation where you can school me on that.
Oh yeah, that's a huge. The list is huge.
What about NyQuil? Because like for me, when I get sick, my biggest strategy is look, I need to get out of here, and I need to go shut the engines down.
Yeah.
And typically, I'll take myself a nice big helping of NyQuil and try and get that done.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm helping myself, maybe not as much.
Correct.
Sometimes I have these real intense nightmares, like a snake's biting me and stuff like that.
But
that's
right.
We could probably talk. I'd like to get together and talk about some of those effects. But let's get back into those basics again, Sam.
Okay.
If we have a cool, dark place to sleep, let's talk sleeping positions.
Okay. Correct.
Right.
Okay.
Back, side, stomach. I've heard some folks even go as far to say any athlete who respects themselves doesn't sleep on their stomach, for like posture and stuff like that. But what's the is there anything that suggests you should try and sleep one way or another?
Well, it's interesting you say that, just because I just pulled up an article on my email the other day that says, in direct reference to that. Yeah. And I must apologize. I didn't get to read that article yet. But and it says how sleep positions affect your specifically which positions are really bad for you. But basically, for the most part, let's say for example, you have back problems. And you went out, shopped, you got the right type of mattress that you're supposed to get. You maybe sleep with a bed wedge or something like that. That, or you just have back issues. You just have a sore back and sore muscles and things like that. Sleep on your side. Sleep with a pillow in between your knees if you're going to sleep on the side, because that does take pressure off of the back too. I've talked with therapists, physical therapists and stuff that have said that too. People that have that snore, guess what's going to happen? They sleep on their back. They're going to snore more. Yeah. And so many times they get the elbow from their spouse. Roll over. And so that goes along with sleep apnea. People that have sleep apnea, it's always worse on the back because they're laying flat on their back. Gravity's working against them, closing their airway. Snoring's going to be worse. Apnea is going to be worse when they're on their back. So.
I see.
Yeah.
I see.
So, but also too, one thing I'll throw in there real quick is elevated pillow. Slightly elevated pillow. For example, people who just snore, let's say they went through a sleep study, found out they don't have sleep apnea, but they still snore. They can use some either breathe right strips along with positional therapy, meaning pillows. Sleep maybe with an extra soft pillow. You don't want your head obviously cocked too much to cause neck problems, but enough to where it's going to help open up that airway more, and the person can breathe easier and they won't snore.
Very nice. Very nice. That's a ton of information. Let's see if we can Let's see if we can put this all together here, Sam. So we have a lot to gain by getting high quality of sleep. High quality if consists of REM and non-REM sleep, right?
Correct.
Both for the hardware and the software. There's some things that can interrupt that. If we're drinking caffeine a little bit, late in the afternoon, if we're having, one too many or it's pretty close to, I guess I'll just stop drinking at noon. But anyway, so there's these, things that can affect the quality of our sleep. But if we're looking for as little light as possible, trying to shut those screens off 1 hour before bed, making sure it's nice and cool. We got a nice position for ourselves. Maybe we've gone through some sleepy time tea. Kind of go through a routine for ourselves. And even if that's not working out, maybe we get up when we read, maybe not exercise, right? Because you don't want to get too fired up.
Correct. Some one thing I'll just throw in there real quick. Some journaling.
Oh, okay.
For example, too, if people they go to bed and typically a good rule of thumb, 15 to 20 minutes is an average sleep time that it takes a person to fall asleep. Mm-hmm. If you find yourself 30 minutes and you're not asleep, get up out of bed.
Gotcha.
Because otherwise you're just going to stay fighting it and it's going to be non-productive.
Right.
But for example, if it's your brain that's not shutting off, you just got things rumbling around in your head from a busy day or stress, just everyday stress, you can write it down in a journal. Get things out in the open.
Now, I'm kind of backtracking now.
Okay.
What about quiet? Right? Mm-hmm. I'm big time guilty of this. I like to listen to something to fall asleep. I'll listen to either, it kind of depends. Sometimes I'll listen to something I've heard before. I used to listen to Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn. Right. I used to be the guy with a TV on watching the same movie, watching Lonesome Dove and 300 and, just a bunch of those things that was very familiar to me. Audio stuff. Mm-hmm. Is this going to, probably not ideal, but is that the worst tactic? Where does that fit in as far as tactics?
It's not the worst. Like, let's say books on audio, for example. And again, it goes back to what type of book, what type of story are you listening to? What type of music are you listening to? Relaxation, like you would hear in a spa, like if you were go to a spa and stuff, or go for a professional massage, and you hear them playing music in the background. Is it the relaxing type? But that I would put on a timer.
Yeah.
Because you don't want it going on all night. Right. Enough to help you to get to sleep.
I have an app that's called Calm.
Yes.
And it has some like bedtime stories where it's telling you about a waterfall.
Correct.
You can put it on a Starry, Starry Night.
Right.
Campfire. Right. So you put it on these different things. I like that crackle.
Yes.
And I've used that before, but I was just curious to see if that is, as potentially harmful or unideal as light.
Right. Yeah, and for example, people too, sound machines. They have white noise or the sound of a creek, the sound of rainfall.
Gotcha.
Things like that. The ocean. Things like that. Those aren't bad at all. In fact, I've used those in a sleep lab in Texas before to help people.
Perfect. Well, so it's quiet if that's your thing, but if you have some nice soothing, maybe you're listening to some fiction or something like that, Me and Jim and the Widow Douglas, something to just kind of calm you down, not get you too riled up.
Right.
And we're waking up feeling rested after 7-8 hours, and we stand to gain. It sounds quite a bit as far as our recovery goes. Especially if you're exercising and working out.
Right.
It's one of the, in training athletes and being an athlete, that's one of the lowest hanging fruit in my opinion, is just getting that high quality sleep.
It is
the best you can for your recovery of your joints, tissues.
Absolutely. You read athletes' books, and I have before too, and at the core is sleep.
Yep.
I mean, for example, I'll just throw this out real quick. I'm not a Tom Brady fan, but I respect the discipline that he uses in his routine and his regimen, and at the core is sleep.
Yeah. Well, we really love performance.
Yes.
We love doing stuff, being busy, crushing it, right? All these things. What I found through kind of my own wellness journey is that as much as I focused on the gym, as faster, bigger, stronger, more, heavier, all these different things, that 1 hour that I used to spend, on a routine basis in the gym, I was always focused on how hard I could go during that 1 hour. And I came to understand that it was really more about how well I could recover those other 23 hours. And sleep was basically my number one ally. It was my number one ally for those. So it's like, I mean, between the HGH, and a bunch of other stuff that I've just, heard as, my bro science background, but, sleep is that. And then if you're one of those pedal to the metal, I'm going to be the CEO of the universe. I only work, hustle, and kill. I don't have time to sleep, and, that it could be one of those things that if you can't afford to do more of it, you can't afford not to do more of it.
Right.
Sam, what is your bedtime routine?
So at 8:30, between 8:30 and 9 o'clock, I start winding down.
Yeah.
I do my best, and sometimes I am guilty of it. I'm watching a basketball game now. I'm a big baseball fan. I'm watching a game, and I'm like, oh man, I don't want to turn that off. But basically, as a general rule of thumb, start by 9 o'clock winding things down, and that way I do some reading. I read a little bit. I have a prayer book that I read, and it just tries to calm me down and relax me. And then, so typically by 9:30 in bed, I do take sometimes a half a Unisom. If I know that I'm still kind of wound up and stuff. Exactly right. And then nice, cool, dark room. I have a humidifier. Oh, wow. That's going in. You can even hear the mild sound of the humidifier going. And exactly. It's nice and calming and stuff to me, too. So I keep the room dark and cool.
Any favorite kinds you do, teas or anything like that? Any recommendations you have? You got a chamomile?
Nope, I do have Sleepy Time as a backup.
You got Sleepy Time as a backup? Very nice.
Which I guess it does have chamomile, yes, in it. So yes, I do have that as a backup. Yes.
Okay, very nice. Very nice. What kind of any special material? You got a soybean pillow or anything like that?
No, I have a combination of pillows that I kind of toss around with, right? But no, but cool, and obviously, you can spend however much you want on a pillow. You can get the My Pillow. People seen that advertised on TV too and stuff. But so that honestly is just a preference of to each his own. Some people like the big ones, the soft ones, the flat ones. I recommend not the complete flat ones because those are harder with the neck position and stuff like that. You want to sleep in a position, obviously, that where you're breathing the best.
Gotcha.
Since I'm such a big guy with sleep apnea, that's our big thing, with this at the sleep lab, is that something that's going to open the airway, especially again if you're snoring too. But so I have multiple pillows that I just kind of play around with.
Deal. Good deal.
Find out whatever.
Well, I think we may never get to that ideal spot, but I think if we keep tinkering, try some of these things, run them as experiments, use this as a process, to see if we're we're getting the gears turning a better way, we're feeling more recovered and things like that we can do a lot of stuff.
And one thing too, I recommend to people, if for example talks I've given to at the college or things like that on the importance of sleep, I go, all a person has to do is go to a website on the internet and you can find out the detriments or the results of the lack of sleep, what it causes.
Right.
The number of car accidents per year.
Right.
Just your cognitive thinking skills are lowered. I mean, I put it this way. Who wants to be driving down the road at 75 miles an hour and think, I wonder what the chances are of that car coming at me if they're going to veer off the road and get in an accident and cause an accident.
I don't want that.
Yeah.
Right.
It is it's something that we don't think of a lot.
Right.
Until something like that happens.
Of course, it's usually the first thing to go, and by making it a priority, working on the habits we can do on. Sam, this has been the exact opposite of a snooze. I appreciate you. We both got our mental health. Much. We got our green on. Thanks for coming in. Maybe we can have another conversation about hardware and stuff and the crazy pillow you put your arm through.
Right, but, exactly.
Happy Friday. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, AJ. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Sam. That was a lot of fun.
Oh, cool.